Hi everyone, this is Ramya. Today we will be studying about post-transcriptional modifications. Under this topic, we will be studying about rRNA processing and ribosome, tRNA processing and other small RNAs, mRNA processing, hnRMPs and snRMPs, and also about alternative mRNA processing. Before going into the topic, we all should know why post-transcriptional modifications are important. That is, why RNA should be modified before translation process. We all know that in prokaryotes, translation and transcription occur simultaneously, whereas in eukaryotes, it is discontinuous process because transcription occurs in cell's nucleus. Once the RNA is synthesized in the nucleus, it has to be transferred to the cell's cytoplasm. Now we'll know what are the importance of this modifications. Post-transcriptional modifications of RNA accomplish two things. The first one is it helps the RNA molecule to be recognized by molecules that mediate RNA translation into proteins. And the second one is during post-transcriptional processing, a portion of the RNA chain that are not supposed to be translated into proteins are cut out of the sequence. By this way, post-transcriptional processing helps to increase the efficiency of protein synthesis by allowing only specific protein coding RNA to go translation process. Without this post-transcriptional processing, protein synthesis could be significantly slowed down since it would take longer time for translation machinery to recognize RNA molecules, and significantly more RNA would have to be unnecessarily translated to achieve the same result. Now we got to know the importance of this RNA post-transcription modifications. Now we'll study about all types of RNAs and their modifications. Very few RNA molecules are transcribed directly into the final mature RNA product. Most of the time, newly transcribed RNA molecules undergo alteration to yield the mature product. This alteration methods are called RNA processing. So what is RNA processing? RNA processing is the collective term used to describe these alteration to the primary transcript. The commonest types of alteration include the removal of nucleotides by both endonucleases and exonucleases. And the second one is the addition of nucleotides to the 5' or 3' ends of the primary transcripts or their cleavage products. And third one is the modification of certain nucleotides on either the base or the sugar moiety. So these processing events takes place in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes and the major classes of RNA. And also along with these three RNA processing, we also have trimming, splicing and RNA editing. We'll study about all these three again briefly now. Trimming on or both of the ends of the primary transcript to mature RNA length. Removing internal RNA sequences by a process called RNA splicing, and modifying RNA nucleotides either at the ends of of an RNA or within the body of RNA. So this modifying RNA nucleotides is called RNA editing. We'll be studying about RNA editing in detail in future slides. Now we'll just briefly examine each of these and then discuss how they are applied to the various types of cellular RNAs. Almost all RNAs have extra sequences at one or both ends of the primary transcript that must be removed. The removal of individual nucleotides from the ends of the RNA strand is carried out by several of enzymes which are called as exonucleases. So we all know that exonucleases will remove the nucleotides at the end of the strand. And also we have endonucleases which removes the entire sequences from the middle of an RNA strand. Both exonucleases and endonucleases are specific for the base pairs. RNA splicing is similar to trimming in that it removes extra RNA sequence, but it is different because the sequence is removed from the middle of an RNA and two flanking pieces are joined together again. So we know what is RNA splicing. We are just going to remove the intron and joining of exon. So intron are the non-coding part of RNA, and the exons are coding part of RNA. So we are going to join these exons. Next is modification of RNA nucleotides. As I said, a modification of RNA nucleotides is nothing but RNA editing. It can occur at the ends of an RNA molecule or at internal position. Modification of the ends can protect the RNA from degradation by exonucleases and can also act as a signal to guide the transport of the molecule to a particular subcellular compartment. Some internal modification, particularly of tRNA and rRNAs, are necessary for these RNAs to carry out their function in the protein synthesis. Now we'll study about rRNA processing in detail. Most of the RNAs transcribed are precursor RNAs and they have to be processed to their functional state. Ribosomal RNAs are synthesized as large precursor, and as they are synthesized, they are subjected to processing, which involves methylation and pseudo-uridylation of bases at specific sites by using secondary structural conformation. So methylation is very important in the binding of riboproteins to rRNA and also for the folding of RNA as the when proteins bind to form a ribosomal structure. In case of E. coli, ribosomal RNA genes are organized into 7 operons called RRN. So it starts from rRNA, rRNB, rRNC, rRND, rRNE, rRNG, rRNH. In some, rRNF is also present in place of rRNH. And ribosomal protein genes into 6 operons. So ribosomal RNA are 7 operons and ribosomal protein genes are into 6 operons. Ribose RNA operons, 7 of them are dispersed in bacterial chromosome. These operons have two promoters P1 and P2 separated by about 100 base pairs. E. coli rRNA operons are transcribed by two tandem promoters rRNP1 and rRNP2, with P1 being the predominant promoter at medium to fast growth rates. Transcripts are larger than the final product. Each precursor RNAs contain non-coding spaces and also tRNA segments in spaces. So, as I mentioned, in E. coli, we have 7 different operons. Those are called rRNH, rRNE, and 6 operons for protein. Each operon contains one copy of each of 5S, 16S, and 23S rRNA sequence. Between 1 and 4 coding sequence, there is a coding region which codes for tRNA molecules also. So this primary transcripts, when it is processed, it gives both rRNA and tRNA molecules. The initial transcript has a sedimentation coefficient of 30S and is normally quite short-lived. In E. coli mutants, defective for RNA is 3. This 30S transcript accumulates, indicating that RNase 3 is involved in rRNA processing. Mutant defective in other RNAs such as M5, M16, M23 have also shown the involvement of these RNAs in E. coli rRNA processing. So this post-transcriptional processing in E. coli will take place in a series of steps, where the first step is transcription of 6000 net primary transcript. The RNA folds up into stem and loop structure by base pairing between complementary sequences in transcript. The formation of this secondary structure of stem and loops allows some proteins to bind to form a RMPs. So RMP are ribonucleoprotein RNA plus protein. So this RMP is nothing but RNA plus protein complex. Many of these proteins remain attached to RNA and become part of ribosome. After the binding of protein modification, methylation takes place at 24 specific bases. So this methylation takes place only for adenine because the enzyme which is responsible here is S-adenosyl methionine. So by name itself indicates it methylates only adenine nitrogen base. Primary cleavage events then takes place mainly carried out by RNase 3 to release precursor of 5s, 16s and 23s molecules. So further cleavage at 5' and 3' ends of each of these precursor by RNAs M5, M16, M23 respectively release the mature length rRNA molecules in the secondary cleavage step. So what and all I explained, it is mentioned here. So this is the primary transcript which has both pre-rRNA and pre-tRNA sequences. Once the RNase 3 acts on this primary transcript, it breaks down into M16, M23, M5 precursor. This M16 gives rise to 16s rRNA, M23 will give rise to a 23s rRNA, M5 will give rise to 5s rRNA. So these 16s, 23s and 5s RNA are mature RNAs. This M16, M23, M5 are precursor for these mature RNAs respectively. Next, rRNA processing in eukaryotes. This is also similar to prokaryotes, only slight difference is present. Here also it is generated by a single long precursor molecule by specific modification and cleavage steps. Here the RNA genes are present in tandem cluster containing 100 or more copies of transcription unit, and they are transcribed in the nucleolus by RNA polymerase 1. The precursor has a characteristic size in each organism, being about 7,000 net in yeast and 13,500 net in mammals. It contains one copy of 18S coding region and one copy of each 5.8S and 28S coding region. This 5.8 and 28S um, coding region is equivalent to 23S rRNA in prokaryotes. The eukaryotic 5S rRNA is transcribed by RNA polymerase 3 from unlinked genes to give a 121 net transcript which undergoes little or no processing. So this 5S rRNA is transcribed by RNA polymerase 3 which may or may not undergo any processing before translation step. For mammalian pre-rRNA, the 13,500 net primary precursor, that is 47S, undergoes a number of cleavages that we see here. So this is for 47S pre-rRNA primary transcript which undergo cleavages accordingly to give mature RNAs. So firstly in external transcript spaces 1 and 2 and cleavages in internal transcribed spaces ITS. So first what happens, it is going this precursor is going to cleave at ETS and ITS in first step, then release 20S pre-rRNA from the 32S pre-rRNA. Both of these precursors must be trimmed further and the 5.8S region must base pair to 28S rRNA before the mature molecules are produced. So this will be the difference between the prokaryotic pre-rRNA the processing and eukaryotic pre-rRNA processing. Here, in case of prokaryotic pre-rRNA, the precursor folds and forms a complex with proteins, and in case of this eukaryotic processing, the precursor forms a base pair with a complement region before it forms a mature molecules. This takes place in the nucleolus. Methylation takes place at over at 100 sites to give 2 prime orthomethyl ribose. It is carried out by a subset of small nucleo RMPs which are abundant in nucleolus. Small nucleolar RMPs. This small nuclear RMPs, if it is present in nucleolus, It is called SNORMPs, small nucleolar RMPs. They contain SNRMP molecules that have short stretches of complementarity to parts of rRNA, and by base pairing with it, they define where methylation takes place. This is one use of this snRNA. It base pairs with the rRNA and says where the methylation is taking place. At least one eukaryote, Tetrahymena thermophila, makes a pre-RNA that undergoes an unusual form of processing before it can function. This Tetrahymena thermophila undergoes unusual form of processing before it becomes mature. It forms a mature mRNA. It contains an intron in the precursor for the largest rRNA, which must be removed during processing. Although this process occurs in vivo in the presence of protein, it has been shown that the intron can actually excise itself in the test tube in the complete absence of protein. The RNA folds into an enzymatically active form or ribozyme to perform self-cleavage and ligation. So this is the in eukaryote Tetrahymena thermophila is exceptional case where it undergoes unusual processing where it contains an intron in the precursor, it is removed during the processing. So if this is taking place in the in vivo condition, it requires protein, and in laboratory condition, if it is done in test tube, it automatically uh, exercise means that intron can be removed complete in the absence of protein also. This RNA folds in an enzymatical way so that this intron is removed. So this is the processing, rRNA processing in eukaryote, where the large single strand 47S pre-rRNA primary transcript is cleaved continuously to give mature rRNAs. In first step, it is going to cleave at ETS1, that is external transcribe spacer 1 and external transcribe spacer 2, and the and internal transcribe spacer 1 and internal transcribe 2. So in first step, it is going to cut at this spacers, and in this next step it is going to form a 45S pre-rRNA precursor is going to cleave and form 41S pre-rRNA precursor, and again after rRNAs it forms 20S and 32S pre-rRNA precursor, and at last this 20S and 32S pre-rRNA precursor is further cleaved or trimmed to give for 18S rRNA, 5.8S rRNA, 28S rRNA. These are the mature rRNAs. So this is the process of rRNA processing in eukaryotes. Next, we'll study about RMPs and their study. So in previous slide, I mentioned about RMP, that is ribonucleoprotein. It's just a complex with RNA and protein. So RNA plus protein will give you ribonucleoprotein complexes. RNA molecules in cells usually exist complex with proteins, specific proteins attaching to specific RNAs. And also these RNAs and protein are specific for each other. So this characteristics plays an important role in studying about RMPs. And the ribosome is the largest and most complex RMPs because it is formed due to the RNA molecules and specific ribosomal proteins during processing. And there are several methods to study about this RMPs. The first one is dissociation. We know that RMP is made up of RNA and protein. In this dissociation step, the process, we are just going to separate this RNA and protein into two different components, and we are going to study separately or then characterized separately. Next is reassembly. It is used to discard the order in which the components fit together If the components can be modified, it is possibly to gain clues as to their individual function. Next is electron microscopy. As we all know, importance of electron microscopy to visualize small micromolecules. Or so when if RMP is large enough to visualize under electron microscope, we'll get accurate overall shape. If not, we'll just get roughly indication of the RMP shape of the RMP. Next is antibodies to RMPs, or their individual components can be used for purification, inhibition of function, and in combination with electron microscope, they can be used for the crude positioning of the components in the overall structure. And second, the next one is RNA binding experiments. Here, this RNA protein complex, that is RMPs, are subjected with RNAs. So we are just treating RNA protein complex with RNAs. So when it is treated, it gets separated. So we can say where it is, so at which particular point it is going to attach, and which part of the RNA is protected by this protein. So RNA binding experiments can show whether a particular protein binds to an RNA. Treatment of RNA protein complex with RNAs can show which part of a RNA are protected by bound protein, the site of binding. So next one is cross-linking experiment. Using UV light with or without chemical cross-linking agents can show which part of the RNA and protein molecules are in close contact in the complex. And the last one is physical methods. In physical method, we have two types, that is neutron and X-ray diffraction method. This both physical methods will give complete 3D structure of this RMPs. So first, the methods to study about RMPs are dissociation, reassembly, electron microscopy, antibodies to RMPs, RNA binding experiments, cross-linking experiments, and physical methods. In physical methods, we have neutron and X-ray diffraction, which gives 3D structure of RMPs. Now we'll study about prokaryotic ribosome. So as importance of ribosome can be illustrated by simple fact about E. coli ribosome. This E. coli ribosome account 25% of dry weight of an E. coli. So 10% of total protein and 80% of total RNA. This prokaryotic ribosome is 70S ribosome. So sedimentation factor is 70. 70S ribosome, of which has a molecular mass of 2.75 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton, and it has two subunits called 50S and 30S. 50S is a large subunit and 30S is small subunit. The smaller subunit is composed of 16S rRNA molecule and 21 different proteins, which are denoted by S1 to S21. And second one, that is large subunit, contains 123S and 15S rRNA molecule and 31 different proteins. These 31 proteins were named as L1 to L34. L34 because it previously it was believed that it contains 34 proteins, but after fractionating 1 to 2-dimensional gels, the L2 L26 spot was later found to be S22, S20. L7 is acylated version of L12 and L8 is a complex of L10 and L7. Hence, there are only 31 different large subunit proteins. So I have mentioned here total 31 different proteins. So that will be L1 to L31 proteins. The sizes of these ribosomal proteins vary differently from L34, which is only 46 amino acid, and S1, which is 557 amino acids. Mostly these relatively small proteins are basic, which might be expected since they bind to RNA. If it is possible to reassemble functional E. coli ribosome from the RNA and protein components, and there is a defined pathway of assembly. So this is a structure of or Hypothetical 1. E. coli or the prokaryotic ribosome is made up of 50S and 30S subunits together, which forms 70S unit, which has a molecular mass of 2.73 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton, and this 50S has 1.8 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton, and 30S has 0.93 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton. This 50S is made up of 31 proteins and one 23S rRNA and one 5S rRNA. 30S subunit is made up of 21 proteins and one 16S rRNA. So by this, with this one picture only, we can say what and all we studied in this slide. So this is, the first one is 30S subunit, this is 50S subunit, and this is the complete 70S ribosome. So, and this is mRNA, which is attached during the translation process. And we all know that this happens in the during translation process. Once the translation is terminated, all these three units, that is mRNA, 50S, 50S and 30S, get separated like this by releasing the amino acid chain. Next is eukaryotic ribosome. In large 60S subunit, which contains about 45 proteins and one 5S rRNA molecule. The 5.8S rRNA and 28S rRNA molecules together are the equivalent of prokaryotic 23S molecule. The small 40S subunit contains the 18S rRNA and about 30 different proteins. Although all the rRNAs are larger in eukaryotes, there is a considerable degree of conservation of secondary structure in each of corresponding molecules. Due to their greater complexity, the eukaryotic ribosomal subunits have not yet been reassembled into functional complexes, whereas in prokaryote, that ribosomal subunits will get reassembled into functional complexes. Ribosome structure is less well understood. The ribosome is a typical eukaryotic cell, can collectively make about 1,000,000 peptide bonds per second. So this is the eukaryotic ribosome. It is 80S and subunit is 60S and 40S, and molecular mass is 4.8 into 4.5 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton. 3 and 60S is 3 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton. 40S molecular weight is for 1.5 into 10 to the power 6 Dalton. As we know, eukaryotic ribosomal structure and their uh, structure is not well known. So it is approximate in 60S, approximately 45 proteins are present with, along with 28S rRNA, 5.8S rRNA, 5S RNA, and in 40S, it approximately 30 proteins may be present, and along with 18S RNA. Next, we'll be studying about tRNA processing and other small RNAs. tRNA processing in prokaryotes. We know that the rRNA operons of E. coli contain coding sequences for tRNAs. So as I mentioned, in the spaces of rRNA operons, there is a coding region which codes for tRNAs. There are other operons in E. coli that contain up to 7 tRNA genes separated by spacer sequences. Mature tRNA molecules are processed from precursor transcript of both of these types of operons by RNAs D, E, F, and P in an ordered series of steps. Illustrated for E. coli tRNA tyre. This TYR should be like tRNA to the power TYR. I have mentioned like this. Once the primary transcript has folded and formed characteristic stems and loops, an endonuclease, that is RNase E or F, cuts a flanking sequence at the 3' end. at the base of the stem to leave a precursor with 9 extra nucleotides. The exonucleases RNase D then removes 7 of these 3' nucleotides one at a time. RNase P can then make an endonucleolytic cut to produce the mature 5' end of the tRNA. So, as here we have mentioned 4 types of RNAs. E and F are endonucleases. D is exonucleases. This P acts as endonucleolytic, which helps in the mature to help them produce the mature 5' end for the tRNA. In turn, this allows RNase D to trim the remaining 2 net form from the 3' end, giving the molecule the mature 3' end. Finally, the tRNA undergoes a series of base modifications. Different pre-tRNAs are processed in a similar way, but the base modifications are unique to each particular tRNA type. So this base modification is nothing but, see, we have different base pairs here which are modified. Instead of O, it is mentioned as S here, and here in case of pseudouridine, this ribose position only is changed. So this is base modification. Although the base modification is similar, it is specific for different types of tRNA which arise from different sequences of precursors. This is pre-tRNA processing in E. coli. So first step is this endonucleases will act on this and create a 3' end at this position. And second step is RNase D, which is also an endonuclease. It cuts this at this position. And third step is RNase P, which gives rise to RNase P acts as an endonucleolide, which cuts at this position, giving 5' end. And we all know tRNA should have CCA coding at the 3' end. So RNase D will cut at this position, creating CCA coding at the 3' end. And we'll have anticodon loop, T loop, and D loop. Next, tRNA processing in eukaryotes. The pre-tRNA is synthesized with a 16 net 5' and 14 net intron and 2 extra 3' nucleotides. Again, the primary transcript forms a secondary structure with characteristic stems and loops which allow endonucleases to recognize and cleave off the 5' leader and 2 3' nucleotides. A major difference between prokaryote and eukaryote is that in the former, the 5' CCA 3' at the 3' end of the mature tRNA is encoded by the genes. In eukaryotic nuclear encoded tRNA, this is not the case. So, as we know, in case of prokaryote, we need the CCA 3' at 3' means CCA coding at 3' end of for the mature tRNA. It is not necessary, or it is not the same case in eukaryotic tRNA. After the 2 3' nucleotides have been cleaved off, the enzyme tRNA nucleotidyl transferase adds the sequence 5' CCA 3' to the 3' end to generate the mature 3' end of the tRNA. So in prokaryotic, we were not adding any CCA sequence to the precursor RNA sequence. But in case of prokaryotes, here tRNA nucleotidyl transferase adds CCA sequence at the 3' end to make it mature RNA. The next step is the removal of the intron, which occurs by endonucleolytic cleavage at each end of the intron followed by ligation of the half molecules of tRNA. The introns of yeast pre-tRNA can be processed in vertebrates, and therefore the eukaryotic tRNA processing machinery seems to have been highly conserved during evolution. This is the processing of yeast pre-tRNA. Intron or nucleotides are boxed. So from U to A, from here, what and all are inside the box are intron, which are non-coding sequences. So this thing should be removed and CCA should be added to make it mature. So first the enzyme adds CCA sequence at the 3' end and then at the second step it is going this endonucleases is going to cut the sequence, this particular intron, to make it mature. So this A will come and join here. So like this, we'll have T loop, D loop, and this is anticodon loop, and also we'll have CCA. This is the amino acid binding site. Next, RNase P. RNase P is an endonuclease composed of one RNA molecule and one protein molecule. It is therefore a very simple RNP. So RNase P is an enzyme which we studied in the previous slide, which acts as an endonuclease in prokaryotes. It is composed of RNA and protein, hence it is called as very simple RNP, ribonucleoprotein. It roles in cells is to generate the mature 5' end of tRNAs from their precursor. RNase P enzymes are found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, being located in your nucleus of the latter, where they are therefore small nuclear RNPs. In E. coli, the endonuclease is composed of 377 net RNA and a small basic protein of 13.7 kilodalton. It has been found that RNA component alone will work as a endonucleases if given pre-tRNA in the test tube. So if we take pre-tRNA test tube and just put a RNA component which is present in RNase pre, it can act as a endonuclease. This RNA is therefore a catalytic RNA or ribozyme capable of catalyzing a chemical reaction in the absence of protein. So if protein is absent also, this RNA can act as a enzyme in only in the test tube. Means it is in the outside, but in when it is in organism, it requires protein to act as an enzyme. In vitro, RNase P ribosome reaction requires higher magnesium 2 plus concentration than occur in vivo. So the protein component probably helps to catalyze the reaction in cells. Next is ribozymes. Ribozymes are catalytic RNA molecules that can catalyze particular biomolecule reactions. There are several types known to occur naturally, and researchers are now able to create new ones using in vitro selection technique. RNase P is a ubiquitous enzyme that matures tRNA, and its RNase component is a ribozyme that acts as an endonuclease. So we studied about this. So the RNA which is present in RNase P acts as an enzyme, so which is also a ribozyme. There is an intron in the large subunit rRNA of tetrahymena that can remove itself from the transcript in vitro in the absence of protein. The process is called self-splicing. As I mentioned, tetrahymena is an exceptional case in the processing of rRNA where it removes its own intron, which is not useful for itself. It removes intron by itself, so it is called self-splicing, and it requires guanosine or a phosphorylated derivative as a cofactor. In vitro reaction is about 15 times less efficient than in vivo reaction. So it is probably that cellular proteins may assist the reaction in vivo. During the replication of some plant virus, concatenameric molecules of the genomic RNA are produced. These are caused by polymerase continuing to synthesize RNA after it has completed one circle of template. These molecules are able to fold up in such a way as to self-cleave themselves into monomeric genome-sized lengths. Currently, there is much interest in using ribozyme to inhibit gene expression by cleaving mRNA molecules in vivo condition, as it may be possible to prevent virus replication, kill cancer cells, and discover the function of new genes by inactivating them. So these are the uses of ribozymes. So by using ribozyme, by inhibiting the expressing or cleaving the mRNA molecules, we can prevent virus replication, kill cancer cells, and discover the function of new genes by inactivating them. Next is other small RNAs. Eukaryotic cells naturally produce small non-coding RNAs that regulate the expression of other genes. These RNAs are not going to express themselves, but it helps to express the other genes by regulating them. These include microRNAs, that is miRNAs, and short interfering RNAs. There are about 250 miRNAs in human, and some of these are evolutionarily conserved in other eukaryotes, and some are developmentally regulated. About 25% of human miRNAs are located in the introns of protein coding genes, the rest being in cluster containing several different miRNA sequences that appear to be transcribed as a polycystonic unit. The initial transcripts, that is primary miRNAs or pre-miRNAs, are processed via 60 to 70 net long hairpin intermediate called pre-miRNA into a mature length of about 22 net. siRNAs are short interfering RNAs. This duplexes of about 23 net are generated by cleavage of longer dsRNAs that are either transcribed from the genome or intermediates in viral replication. They can also be produced from sequences introduced into cells or organisms. Both miRNAs and one strand of siRNAs are bound to proteins to form a ribonucleoprotein complex called RISC, RNA induced silencing complex. So here also protein is there, also this is not ribonucleoprotein which we studied about previously, SNPs, that this is not same one. Here we have miRNAs and siRNAs, so it is called as RNA induced silencing complex that is responsible for inhibiting the expression of specific genes to which the RNA component is complementary. So this RNA induced silencing complex helps to inhibit the expression of specific genes. The RNA in the RISC directs inhibitions by either causing degradation of the complementary mRNA when the RNA sequence match perfectly, or by translation inhibition when the match is less good, or by indirectly causing methylation of the promoter of the gene encoding the complementary mRNA. So this RNA in the RISE can directly inhibit the expression of specific gene by degradation of the complementarity of mRNA when it is complementary to each other, but when it is not good enough to for complementation, it undergo translation inhibition by indirectly causing methylation of the promoter of the gene encoding the complementary mRNA. The translation inhibition by miRNA occurs by binding to sequences in the 3' non-coding region of the mRNA, which are often present in multiple imperfectly matching copies. It has been estimated that the 250 human miRNAs could regulate the expression of as many as one-third of the genes in the human genome. miRNAs seem to be partially responsible for the difference in specific mRNA levels in different tissues and overexpression of miRNAs has been correlated with certain types of cancer. So when this miRNA, when it is overexpressed, it may lead to cancer also. Next, RNA interference, RNAi, is a process where sense antisense or DS double-stranded RNA can cause inhibition of expression of an homologous gene. The RNAi response seems to be an evolutionary conserved mechanism to protect eukaryotic cells from viruses and mobile genetic elements. But exploiting this response is now being used to discover the function of specific genes. Next is mRNA processing. So before going to mRNA processing, we'll study how mRNA is synthesized. We all know that from DNA we'll get mRNA. This DNA is transcribed to give pre-mRNA. As soon as this mRNA is produced, it forms a 5' cap, and then endonucleases. Next is at 3' end adylation we will take, and then splicing of introns will take, giving rise to mature mRNA, where at 5' end there is a cap and at 3' end there is a poly A tail, because to protect these ends from the exonucleases during the transfer of this RNA from nucleus to the cytoplasm. So mRNA processing, HNRMPs and SNRMPs. First is processing of mRNA. There appears to be a little or no processing of mRNA transcripts in prokaryotes, because both the transcription and translation occurs simultaneously, whereas in eukaryotes it is discontinuous. Ribosome can assemble on and begin to translate mRNA molecules that have not yet been completely synthesized. Prokaryotic mRNA is degraded rapidly from the 5' end, and the first histone protein coding region can therefore only be translated for a limited amount of the time. Some internal histone are partially protected by stem loop structure that form at the 5' and 3' ends and provide a temporary barrier to exonucleases, and can thus be translated more often before they are eventually degraded. Because eukaryotic RNA polymerase II transcribes such a wide variety of different genes, from the snRNA genes of 60 to 30s net to the large gene whose transcript can be over 100 kilobase pair in length. The collection of products made by this enzyme is referred to as heterogeneous nuclear RNA, that is hnRNA. Those transcripts that will be processed to give mRNAs are called pre-mRNA. Pre-mRNA molecules are processed to mature mRNA by 5' capping, 3' cleavage, and polyadenylation, splicing, and methylation. So all these processing are involved only in all these steps are only involved in mRNA processing, that is splicing, polyadenylation, capping. We will not see any this adenylation and capping in other rRNA and tRNA processing methods. Only here we will see 5' capping and 5' capping, 3' polyadenylation, methylation, all those things. Now is HNRMP. The HNRMA the hnRNA synthesized by RNA polymerase II is mainly pre-mRNA and rapidly becomes covered in proteins to form heterogeneous nuclear ribonucleoprotein, that is HNRMP. The protein involved have been classified as HNRMP proteins A, U. There are two forms of each of the three more abundant HNRMP proteins, the A, B, and C proteins. These are the two forms each of three more abundant HNRMP, where it is called as A, B, C proteins. Purification of this material from nuclei gives a fairly homogeneous preparation of 30 to 40 S particles called HNRMP particles. These particles are about 20 nanometer in diameter and each contain about 600 to 700 net weight of RNA complex with three copies of three different tetramer. These tetramers are A1 3B2, A2 3B1, and C1 3C2. These are the tetramer. The HNRMP proteins are thought to help keep the HNRNA in a single stranded form and to assist in the various RNA processing reactions. Next is SNRMP particles, small nuclear ribonucleoproteins. RNA polymerase II also transcribes most snRNAs, which complexes with specific proteins to form snRMPs. These RNAs are rich in the base uracil and are thus denoted U1, U2, etc. The most abundant are those involved in pre-mRNA splicing, that is U1 to U6. The majority seem to be involved in determining the sites of methylation of pre-RNA and are thus located in the nucleolus. Except this U1 to U6, all other are located in nucleolus. The major nucleoplasmic snRMPs are formed by the individual snRNAs complexing with a common set of 8 proteins which are small and basic and a variable number of snRNP specific proteins. These core proteins known as the SM proteins after an antibody which recognizes them require the sequences 5' RAUN to be present in the single stranded region of the RNA. U6 does not have this sequence, but it is usually base paired to U4, which does. They are synthesized in the nucleus by RNA polymerase II and have a normal 5' cap. They are exported to the cytoplasm where they associate with the common core proteins with other specific proteins. The 5' cap gains two methyl groups and they are then imported back into the nucleus where they function in splicing. Next is 5' capping. After RNA polymerase II starts making a transcript and before the RNA chain is more than 20 to 30 net long, the 5' end is chemically modified by the addition of 7-methyl guanosine M76G residue. This 5' modification is called a cap. So this capping starts as soon as the transcription starts, occurs by addition of GMP nucleotide to give the new RNA transcript in the reverse orientation compared with the normal 3' to 5' linkage, giving a 5' triphosphate bridge. The reaction is carried out by an enzyme called mRNA guanyl transferase. So it is going to transfer 7-methyl guanosine to at 5' end. There can be subsequent methylation of the sugar on the first and second transcribed nucleotides, particularly in vertebrates. The cap structure forms a barrier to 5' exonucleases and thus stabilizes the transcript. As I said, this capping and tailing protects the RNA from the degradation from the enzyme. So, this capping structure forms a barrier to 5' exonucleases. It stabilizes the transcript. The cap is also important in other reactions undergone by pre-mRNA and mRNA such as splicing, nuclear transport and translation. So this is the 7-methyl guanosine group and this is ribose sugar. This 7-methyl guanosine will continue to form up to until it forms a cap. So the 5' cap structure of eukaryotic mRNA. At 5' end, there is a cap formed due to the 7-methyl guanosine. Next is 3' cleavage and polyadenylation. So adenylation will not start as soon as the mRNA is synthesized or start synthesizing, but once the pre-mRNA is synthesized, it cleaves and then polyadenylation will take place. The mature 3' end of the molecule is generated by cleavage, followed by the addition of a tail of A residues, that is adenine residue, which is called the poly-A tail. This feature has allowed the purification of mRNA molecules from the other types of cellular RNAs, permitting the construction of cDNA libraries from which specific genes have been isolated and the function analyzed. The cleavage and polyadenylation reaction requires that specific sequence be present in the DNA and its pre-mRNA transcripts. This consists of 5' AAU, AAA, 3', the polyadenylation signal, followed by a 5' YA, 3', where Y is a pyrimidine. In the 11 to 20 net downstream, a geo-rich sequence is often present. Collectively, these sequence elements make up the requirements of the polyadenylation sites. A number of specific protein factors recognize these sequence elements and bind to the pre-mRNA. When the complex has assembled, cleavage takes place, and then one of the factor, poly-A polymerase PAP, adds up the 250 A residues to the 3' end of the cleaved pre-mRNA. The poly-A tail on pre-mRNA is thought to help to stabilize the molecule, since a poly-A binding protein binds to it, which should act to resist 3' exonuclease action. In addition, the poly-A tail may help in the translation of the mature mRNA in the cytoplasm. Histone pre-mRNA do not get polyadenylated but are cleaved at a special sequence to generate their mature 3' end. So histone pre-mRNA will not get polyadenylated, but it gets cleaved at special sequence to give mature 3' end. So this is double-stranded DNA where it gets transcribed to single-stranded RNA. This is polyadenylation signal, that is AAU, AAA. Here it polyadenylation. After this, it takes place after 20 base pairs. CA is there, poly A addition site, cleavage site, and UUG. This is the GU rich region at at 3' end. It is going to add poly A tail, and then at 5' end there is a cap. At this end it will be a capping, and at this end it will be a tailing, where this is a signal, polyadenylation signal, and after 20 bases we'll have cleavage site, and at this stage it is going to cleave, and here A will start adding, and the GU rich region will be there. Next is splicing. Splicing, we all know, it is just going to remove introns and join exons. Some sequences that are transcribed and which are upstream of the polyadenylation site are also eventually removed to create the mature mRNA. These sequences are cut out from the central region of the pre-mRNA and the other portion join. These intervening sequences are introns, those sequences that will become adjacent regions in the mature mRNA. So this intron are non-coding region, exons are the coding region of the mRNA. The exons, which are usually the protein coding regions of mRNA, the process of cutting the pre-mRNA to remove the introns and joining together the exon is called splicing. Like the polyadenylation process, it takes place in the nucleus before the mature mRNA can be exported to the cytoplasm. Splicing also requires a set of specific sequences to be present. The 5' end of almost all introns has a sequence that is 5' GU 3' and 3' end is usually 5' AG 3'. So at 5' GU should be there, at 3' AG should be there. AG at 3' end is preceded by a pyrimidine rich sequence called polypyrimidine tract. About 10 to 40 residue upstream of the polypyrimidine tract is a sequence called the branch point sequence. This we should remember. So for polypyrimidine tract, about 10 to 40 residues is a this is a sequence called branch point sequence, which is 5' curate 3' means here R is purine, Y is pyrimidine. In East, it is more specific. It is UAC, UAAC. But in other things, we can say curate, where R is purine and Y is pyrimidine. Splicing has been shown to take place in two-step reaction. First, the bond in front of the G at the 5' end of the intron at the so-called 5' splice site is attached by the 2' hydroxyl group of the A residue of the branch point residue sequence to create a tailed circular molecule called a lariat and free exon. And first thing is the bond in front of G, which is present at 5' end of the intron, and this this is called as 5' splice site. It is attacked by the 2' hydroxyl group of the A residue, and this creates a tailed circular molecule called a lariat and free exon 1. So this is a splice site after the G. It is a splice site. Here is a curate, which is also called as branch point, and polypyrimidine tract is called a branch point. So first is intron is at one step. This at this splicing site it's going to cleave, and exon 1 will be freed from this intron, and this again at this position it is going to cut, and again exon 2 will be freed from this intron, which form a circular like this. It is called as lariat, and later this exon 1 and exon 2 is attached using ligase. In the second step, cleavage at the 3' splice site occurs after the G of the AG as the two exon sequences are joined together. The intron is released in the lariat form and is eventually degraded. The splicing process is catalyzed by U1, U2, U4, U5, and U6 SNRMPs as well as other splicing factors. The RNA components of these SNRMPs form base pairs with various conserved sequences at the 5' and 3' splice sites and the branch point. Early in splicing, the 5' end of the U1 SNRMP binds to the 5' splice site, and then U2 binds to the branch point. The tri-SNRMP complex of U4, U5, and U6 can then bind, and in so doing the intron is looped out and the 5' and 3' exons are brought into close proximity. The SNRMPs interact with one another, forming a complex which folds the pre-mRNA into the correct conformation for splicing. So this SNRMPs acts as a as I mentioned here, this SNR, these are the SNRMPs U1, U2, U4, U5, U6. This helps in splicing of mRNA. These are SNRMPs. So we'll study how it is going to involve in the splicing. So this exon is removed. Sorry, at this position it's going to cut, and this exon 1 will become free. And here branch site is there. This again here it can cut u1 plus u2. This u1 will attack on gu site of exon, which is attached to exon 1 and intron, and u2 will attack on a adenosine site where exon 2 and intron is attached. So in next step, U4, U5, U6 complex together attack, where it forms a variant between this intron, giving rise to the free exon 2 and exon 1. This will be removed by breaking this point. At this point, it is going to cut, and here it is going to cut at this point. This forms a variant. Sorry, not variant, it is spliceosome. This complex of snRNPs and pre-mRNA, which forms to hold the upstream and downstream exons close together while looping out the intron, is called spliceosome. After the spliceosome forms, a rearrangement takes place before the two-step splicing reaction can occur, which release of the intron as a variant. There is a minor class of introns that usually have the sequence ATAC at their ends, rather than the normal GTAG as well as variant branch point sequence. These minor introns are spliced by a variant of the normal spliceosome, in which the RNA components of U1 and U2 are replaced by U11 and U12 respectively. U4 and U6 are variants of the major types. U5 is the only common snRNA used in both major and minor spliceosome. So U5 is the common snRNA used in both methods. Despite these minor differences, the splicing mechanism are essentially identical. Next is pre-mRNA methylation. So these are the other methods in RNA processing. The final modification of processing event that many pre-mRNAs undergo is specific methylation of certain bases. In vertebrates, the most common methylation event is on the N6 position of A residues, particularly when these A residue occur in the sequence 5' RRACX 3', where X is rarely G. Up to 0.1% of pre-mRNA residues are methylated, and the methylation seems to be largely conserved in mature mRNA, though their function is unknown. Next is alternative mRNA processing. Alternative mRNA processing is the conversion of pre-mRNA species into more than one type of mature mRNA. This can result from the use of different polyacids or different patterns of splicing. In eukaryotes, a particular pre-mRNA species can give rise to more than one type of mRNA. This can occur when certain alternative exons, are removed by splicing and so are not retained in the mature mRNA product. Additionally, if there are alternative possible polyacids that can be used, different 3' ends can be present in the mature mRNAs. There are two types of alternative RNA processing. The first one is RNA splicing and alternative poly A processing. The first one is alternative splicing and second one is alternative poly A processing. In first type, we are going to do splicing but in different way, and in second we are going to do poly A tailing. The DSCAM gene from the Drosophila is perhaps the most extreme example of alternative splicing, as only 17 exons are retained in various combinations from its 108 total. Alternative polyacids. Some pre-mRNAs contain more than one set of sequence required for cleavage and polyadenylation. It is possible that if the upstream site is used, then sequence that control mRNA stability or location are removed in the portion that is cleaved off. Thus, mature mRNAs with the same coding region but differing stabilities or locations could be produced from one gene. In some situations, both sites could be used in the same cell at a frequency that reflects their relative efficiencies, means their strength, and the cell would contain both types of mRNA. The efficiency of a poly A site may reflect how well it matches the consensus sequences. In other situations, one cell may exclusively use one poly site while a different cell uses another. The most likely explanation is that in one cell the stronger site is used by default, but in other cell a factor is present that activates the weaker site, so it is used exclusively, or that prevents the stronger site from being used. In some cases, the use of alternative polyasides can cause different patterns of splicing to occur. So next is RNA editing, an unusual form of RNA processing in which the sequence of primary transcript is altered is called RNA editing. So whether we can, by this RNA editing, we can change a message of mRNA where amino acid sequence are changed. In mRNA, in man, editing causes a single base change from C to U in the apolipoprotein B pre-mRNA, creating a stop codon in the mRNA in intestinal cells at position 6666 in the 14,500 net molecule. The unedited RNA in the liver makes apolipoprotein B100 of 512 kilodalton protein, but in the intestine, editing causes the truncated apolipoprotein B48, which is 241 kilodalton, to be made. Similarly, a single A to G change in the glutamate receptor pre-mRNA gives rise to an altered form of the receptor in a neuronal cells. The RNA editing changes in the ciliated protozoan Leishmania are much more dramatic. When the cDNA for the mitochondrial cytochrome B gene was cloned, it had a coding region corresponding to the protein sequence. Eventually, some cDNA clones were obtained which had sequences corresponding to intermediates between the mature mRNA and the genomic sequence. Many cycles of editing eventually produce the mature mRNA which can be translated. Short RNA molecules called guide RNAs seem to be involved. Their sequences are complementary to regions of the genomic DNA and the edited RNA. Several other types of RNA editing are known. So this is a pictorial way of representing the alternative selection, all those things, models of alternative splicings. So the first one is alternative selection of promoters, P1 or P2. And the second one, P, is alternative selection of cleavage. So it is, we have here we have alternative way of selecting a poly A tail, whether we can add A tail here at this point or at this point. So we have two choices to add poly A tail. And a third one is retention of an intron. So in some, as we know, we'll remove intron because it is a non-coding region. But in some cases, we can retain this intron which change the sequence. So here it is retained, here it is not retained. So either way, this is an alternative method. And the fourth one is exon skipping. So it can be at this point it is going to cleave, when we are removing exon. As we studied, in some cases exons are removed, as we studied previously. So at this state, we can keep exon or we can remove this exon. Thank you for listening. Hope you all understood. If you have any doubts, uh, you can ask me. Thank you.